Good morning, everyone. And with us today we have Peter. And Peter has sent around a video for you to watch. And I know a lot of people have watched it and sent in questions. So Peter's going to answer those questions. And I think it'll be interesting for everyone because he's a very deep thinker and also a very good meditator. So we're in for a lovely session this morning. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Sally. As we pan back. Yes, very good morning to everyone. So we've been talking, or at least in the presentation that would have been put up yesterday, I think, you would have understood about, we're talking about thoughts and creating a balance and just being able to manage our thinking processes and how we get on in a day-to-day sense. So we're going to have a meditation with a commentary on balance. And the thing is that it's largely concerning how we manage our internal processes and understanding the nature of our thoughts and the influences on them, and when they influence us, what to do at what time. So it's responding really to dynamically to what's happening internally. When thoughts come up, and there's some questions here regarding other people, situations, interactions, those type of things. And for that, of course, you need to have some preparation. And preparation in all things is most of the success, I can say, because it speaks to an attitude of being aware that things can happen at any time. And especially we're used to the things that happen to us, on a day-to-day basis, just living our lives. But then there's also the unexpected things. And so if you're outdoors, you're traveling around and suddenly there's a storm, there's a shower and rain and so on. Well, obviously it's difficult to produce an umbrella at the time. But some people, have these precautions and are aware of what's going on around them and may be prepared for any kind of eventuality, but hence the Swiss Army knife approach to things, to have everything and be prepared for everything all the time. On a mental level, it's not so complicated, but practice is needed with all these things and getting used to our own reactions to others and to the world around us, to events that go on all the time. So the mental exercise is really what it's about, to keep busy mentally. Doesn't mean that in some instances people might think that, well, if we're always mentally active, it's a tiring process. Or, for example, who wants to have so much attention all the time, day and night, over different things? But the practice of self-consciousness allows us to generate such thoughts and energy, which then makes it easier for us to cope with things as they happen. So self-consciousness also means storing. We're storing good thoughts, good wishes, pure feelings. We have a store of them. And meditation is also like that. There's a sense of achieving something when you meditate, or there should be. So in order to do that, though, the mind needs to be well educated and well practiced in the art of dealing with things. So hopefully sitting for meditations with commentaries or creating your own commentaries, which I sort of tend to do for myself. I don't know how effective they are for others, but I certainly know how I think. and how I need to adjust my thinking in different situations. And I think ahead. So when I sit to meditate, I actually, as I mentioned in there, in the talk that I gave, that I think ahead and then I think to myself what it is that I need to experience at this time. And is the mind cooperating with me in that respect? Are the thoughts that are being generated according to the aim that I've given myself? So this is a kind of checking that needs to go on. But you'll find that maintenance is always easier than completely forgetting about it and then finding that, you know, your mental state is very low, your energy's low, you're feeling emotional or disturbed by things, and then recreating it again for yourself is not an easy thing to do, and that is tiresome. Whereas if you maintain a balance in your life and then you're just doing a little bit of maintenance work as you're going along, it's much easier. So without too much more talking, we will play the commentary and see if we can practice embodying some of the ideas as we meditate. Certainly, one of the things that happens during the meditation process is that our thoughts slow down. So we have fewer thoughts, but more meaningful. So just check as you're listening, is your internal state matching the thoughts that are being suggested? And are you able to hold on to those thoughts? What I often do is that if I do listen to a commentary, which isn't very often, what I will do is to take one thought and just hold on to it. Something that has meaning for me, that I can work with immediately, I keep that thought and I maintain that thought over the period of time. It might be minutes, it might be for an hour, or it might be half a day, and it can be 2 weeks actually. The thing is, the relevance of it is what is important. See how it can be applied to you and how you can work with it. So I assume that now commentary will be played magically without my intervention. And let's go into silence. It's about 8 minutes, I believe, at which time we'll be sharing vibrations and spreading those vibrations beyond our limited area where I'm sitting. Those thoughts will go beyond the room and beyond the immediate circumstances and environment that I'm in and become a little bit more unlimited. So I'm Shanti and let's begin.
Balance. Sometimes we find it very difficult to keep a balance because so many things come, not only to distract us, but also to throw us off balance. A surprise, a shock, something negative that we didn't expect. And this becomes more and more every day. And when we are thrown off balance, then we lose our peace, we lose our sense of direction. And how do we get back on track? I have to start to understand that when I am secure within myself, and when I have an understanding of what balance means, then I can quickly put myself on the right track again. And as I become stronger, I will not be thrown off the right track anymore. Keeping balance creates maturity and creates a sense and the understanding that I'm able to deal with difficulties and obstacles not in a way that is reactive and over-emotional, but in a way that is accepting, in a way that it is appropriate to the person and situation. An imbalanced mind acts very illogically. So to return to balance means that I start to realize that actually all things have their limit, even good things. Let me not go to any extremes, because when I go to extremes, they work against me. For example, patience is a great power. All distractions and all obstacles. Determination is not balanced with flexibility or with patience, then it starts to become stubbornness. I start to become tense. I start to become over-focused. And when people are stubborn, then they start to become insensitive to the needs of the people around them. So to keep balance, it means that I have opposite positives together. Determination plus patience and flexibility. Another balance is love and detachment. We need to be loving, to be accepting, to be respectful. We need, of course, to show mercy towards others. But for example, if there's too much mercy, what will happen? Then others start to become dependent on me. And when they become dependent on me, then they lose their own freedom. They cannot stand on their own feet. And if I give the wrong type of love, it starts to become possessiveness. And in that possessiveness, the other person loses their freedom. The characteristic of pure love is freedom. It allows the other to be free. So love needs to be balanced with detachment. Sometimes people don't understand detachment. They think it's something negative. But detachment is a very, very positive quality. Another word for detachment could be respectful space. If there's not detachment, if we don't respect the space in between, then there's the danger of getting stuck. And when we get stuck, nothing moves. Even good things do not move. Another balance is the balance of silence and action. I need silence to recharge myself, to renew myself, to relax. I need to go inward from time to time. But if I stay inward and I never come out, then I am lost in myself. I can become selfish, self-centered, lost in my own thoughts and my own ideas. True silence means to come out, to balance my inner world with my outer world. When I find peace in silence, when I find happiness in silence, when I find trust, truth in silence, then I share that with others. And to share, I must come into actions. Silence will always create quality. in actions. In the same way, if I am lost in actions and never stop and reflect on what I am doing and why I'm doing it, then those actions will simply overtake my mind, and I'll just be doing and doing and doing like a machine. To keep the balance of different positive things at the same time will keep me healthy and make me truly functional and effective in life and in relationships.
Shanti. Yeah, I don't know about you, but that was a delightful experience. And I had the thought during that meditation, I was appreciating the commentary and the ideas that were being mentioned. And also I thought there's an aspect of legacy that's significant and important. And that is looking at the bigger picture in our lives. Often we can just spend our time getting trapped in the minutiae, the small stuff, and seemingly the small stuff actually throws us. Maybe it's because the larger questions in life we've thought about a lot more, but the small stuff we don't expect to have such an impact on us. So we can get caught in that way. And as time passes, then we think, well, what did I actually do? How much time and energy did I spend on things that were of less significance to me in the overall picture of my life? And I was appreciating the fact that Anthony Strana, who made this commentary, has himself left such a good legacy for us. Good ideas, good thoughts, good wishes, encouragement, teachings and ideas. If we think about it, what is our legacy that we will leave when we leave this life? What will we be remembered for? And how significant can we make that? And so this will take us beyond the small thoughts of the world. So in terms of how we deal with what is served up to us, how much time will we spend on small matters? And can I go beyond them? Am I able to experience moments where I go up above and then I can look down on what's happening around me and see it for what it really is, as a passing event, as a small thing, as insignificant? Or do I make those small things into large things? So one of the things that we know that through our practice of not just meditation, but this whole lifestyle, is when you're giving to others, you're also receiving at the same moment. So it's a bit like, I thought of a juggler throwing balls and almost taking and receiving at the same time. So rather than thinking about juggling the events of our life, think about how I take and give at the same time. So taking spiritually and also giving something of what I've gained, because that's where the real sense of achievement is. So it's encouraging my thoughts to go in that direction. And in that process, when we're serving others, and it may just be through the mind, you may not be in a position to do anything on a physical level for someone, but mentally, to have good wishes for other people will also give you good mental health. So because you've got the practice of cleaning out the mind, cleaning out the thoughts, because what you take from this soul into the self, it passes through. And again, it leaves space. So if your hands are full, then what can you receive? So we need to keep giving whatever it is that we receive and enable ourselves to absorb more and more. And that's really the challenge in this process, to see that I'm giving out something and I'm receiving something at the same time. So just some thoughts during meditation, because meditation practice is also like that. It's like emptying the mind and empowering the mind at the same time, putting new energy in there, new thoughts in there. But be aware that you have to allow the old thoughts to pass through before the new ones can come in. So from yesterday, there's some questions here that I'd like to address. We may have time to address others if there are more questions. I noticed there's someone mentioned about the sound being gone. I hope it's working okay now. Maybe you can give us another comment so that we can see. Okay. So there's a question here from someone regarding it's hard to forgive people who hurt me, and it's painful for me to keep that anger within me. Yes, it is painful to keep anger. Anger is not a pleasant thing to keep. And so really what it is a question of what am I achieving, or what am I receiving through a spiritual life or a meditation practice? What is it that I'm gaining through this? So if I have the sense of gaining or achievement, I will be able to let go of things. But we have to consider how valuable it is, what the time is providing us with, this opportunity to focus on the self, to understand ourselves better, to understand God, spiritual powers, what we can receive. Otherwise, what happens is these negative emotions sort of kind of set themselves in our mind. And it's a bit like if someone comes into your home, a kind of unwanted guest, I suppose, and they make themselves at home, and it's difficult for you then to ask them to leave. So in that sense too, that the vices that we have that we're all fighting against and we would all like to be free from, the anger, the greed, the ego, and so on, these things have sort of made themselves a bit of a home in our minds, in our subconscious. So we need to be able to dig those out over a period of time. But we do that through knowledge and understanding. We can't do it through force. It's not like we can fight anger with anger and be successful. It doesn't work like that. So that it's rather considering what are the alternatives, what am I getting? And also in some ways, I think it's necessary to accept that at some point in our lives, in running the business of our life, we've done things and we've acted in ways that we regret. I'm sure we all can think of examples. And sometimes, I can think back to actually my childhood. Well, not childhood, but, I was probably a teenager, where I said something that even now I regret that I said that to someone. So these memories are in there, they're locked down there, and we need to stop looking at others and purge these things from ourselves. And if you keep looking at other people, and especially with those people with whom you've had exchanges or unpleasant exchanges, then that will make you feel uncomfortable every time you think about them. So best not to think about them. Forgiving them is one thing. Forgetting is the other thing. So for that, we need to be fully occupied in the process of self-transformation and not allow a certain margin of our thought or attention to go towards other people. Because in that window of opportunity, that anger will come back again and it will cause us disturbance and unhappiness. So best not to revise those things, just as you wouldn't like someone else to be walking around thinking about, you know, what you did or your bad behavior or something negative about you. You wouldn't like that either. So using a little bit of psychology on ourselves to think, okay, what is it that I can best do now? Forgive that person, and in time we'll also forget about it. And that good energy will allow that locked in anger there to gradually be removed. So that was one, that's a response to one of the questions. Then we had the notion, now this was kind of more of a summary really, and quite a good summary from Jen, talking about uncertainty and taking control of my mind before being able to fully focus on the connection that I'm seeking. That's a really good observation and a good point, because if the machinery is not working well, we can't expect it to service properly. And really, this is what the mind is. It's a bit of machinery because it's working, it's turning over all the time. There's newness coming in and there's old things there. So we need to manage that and to make sure that as we try to instill a process of experiencing peace in meditation, we need to see that the mind is being cooperative with us. So the preparation for me has always been a significant thing. I remember when I first began, back in 1976, I was a student at the time, and I could only go to the centre twice a week. So I do remember, though, that on those days in particular where I would go there, that I would spend the entire day anticipating what my experiences would be, because I was new, there was enthusiasm, I liked the energy, the vibration. I thought, I really have to get me some of this. And so during the day, I would anticipate being there, having the experience, so that actually when I arrived there in the evening, my meditations were very good and very powerful and lots of experiences as well, because the mind was busy in preparation for it. And so this is the thing, is before you sit and meditate, you're not to think that I only meditate when I'm sitting down, or, you know, I've got all the candles going, or, you know, the music's going, or the commentary's going. The meditation is something that I'm encouraging myself to be in that state during the day, so that if I do go to sit in meditation, it's an extra boost to me because my attention can be fully focused. So that was a very good point. And then the third one was, okay, so someone has dealings with people, and they said once a week there will be one soul a week that's deeply triggered and is sitting in terror and impending doom and just goes blah. Well, you know, the blah experience happens probably daily in some instances that we that we come across. So we do have to see it as a game. And I think this is also the price of entry into this practice of transformation and change, is you can't expect that everyone and everything will behave nicely towards us. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't matter what level of effort you're making, there'll always be someone who will be triggered. And maybe it's a karmic thing, and then that karmic thing has to be put into the past and settled without a negative response. So I think in some instances it's just a matter of tolerating and allowing that time to pass, that person to come and go. Of course, suggestions can be made, but we also can see that some people are not up for suggestions. and are not that willing to be have explanations. And you can see when in their manner, the way that they talk, that they're not really, all they want to do is to vent and to, put it out there. In those instances, I think it's very useful for you to have the power of silence, so that in a sense it's not affecting you personally, because what people experience in the world, the terror or the fear and so on, it's not directed at anyone in particular, but it's just an energy that they've created and they're putting out there. And so whether or not they're in your company, that energy is out there in the world at the moment, the terror and the fear and so on. And so it sort of requires of us that we be beyond the vibration that's being generated by people around the world. And of course, some people take it much better, but others don't. And so we need to be a bestower in that sense. I mean, it's a word that we use. It's a little bit sort of in-house kind of thing, but it just means that we're giving. Through our thoughts and in the mind, we're giving good wishes to a person. And whilst they're verbalizing something, we can be silently sending that person vibrations. It may not work in the very first instance, but if you continue to have those thoughts and you have powerful meditation, then those thoughts will have a very good impact on that individual and many others also. There's one other aspect here that comes with this question that I wanted to say something about. Techniques or tips on improving sleep. Well, go to bed early, there's one. Hot cup of tea or milk. No, seriously, if there's been a build-up of something during the day, it may have just generated lots of thoughts for you. It may not be negative necessarily, but you're loaded with thoughts. So I make sure that when I go to sleep, I want to have a nice experience. I kind of have that aim, and I kind of enforce that in myself on a daily basis, that by the time I go to sleep, I make sure that I'm actually feeling really good about myself and about things in the world. And this is where adjustments can be made, because it's a quiet time of self-reflection, and it might be for me 20 minutes or it could be an hour. But what I think is that even if I'm not sleeping as early as I would like, it's a quality of sleep that's important to me. So if I can go to sleep even an hour later, but I'm fully resolved within myself and I feel at peace with myself, then I find that that sleep is really worthwhile. And I'm not anxious or disturbed about things, but I like to get things out. Whatever is still there, I like to remove that, and so I can sleep comfortably. So then my responses to the questions that were given here. So I think we'll continue. What I intend is that there's another talk which I have already recorded, which is on the subject of tapasya. Now, tapasya means intense meditation, and it could sort of conjure up a lot of things in your mind, but basically it's using your power of thoughts to achieve things and keeping them focused over a long period of time on a particular aspect. So we'll be talking about next time, and of course there'll be more questions that we can have. I don't know if there's anything else here that I can refer to, just looking at the questions on the side. Okay, so I guess that sums it up for today. It's been a pleasure being here and having this opportunity to share. I hope your meditation was good, and it's good to have, keep this practice going. So thanks again, and we'll talk again soon. Oh, no, I don't know. We're here. We're here still to talk. I'm happy to hand over just at the moment. Sally will come and chat with you, and I'll vacate. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That was very helpful. And I'm sure in weeks to come we'll have some more questions for Peter, and be very interesting to hear his talk on tapasya, the very deep, deep meditation. Thank you all. And remember, you can watch any of these with the link for a week. So sometimes listening to them over and over, you pick up new points that you mightn't have the first time. So enjoy that. Thank you.